My name is Eleanor, and I'm 102 years old. I've been alive for more than a century, and for 60 of those years, I carried an anger so deep it became part of who I was. I'm only now understanding that I spent 6 decades being furious at someone for something they never actually did. It started in 1964, or maybe it was 1963. The exact year doesn't matter anymore, but I remember the season. It was autumn, and the leaves were that particular shade of red that makes you feel like time is running out. My sister Margaret and I were close then, the kind of close where we told each other everything. We had secrets that nobody else knew. We had dreams we only shared with each other. And we had a promise that we'd always be honest, no matter what. I was getting married that year. His name was Robert, and I was 26 years old. I thought I understood what love was. I thought I understood what loyalty meant. But looking back now, I realize I was still very much a child in the ways that mattered. A few weeks before the wedding, I told Margaret something I'd never told anyone. I told her that Robert had once said something unkind about her. I can't even remember what it was now. Something about her dress, or her laugh, or some small thing that felt enormous at the time. And I remember being hurt on her behalf, and I remember telling her about it because I thought she deserved to know, because that's what sisters do. They protect each other. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't know for 60 years, is that Margaret didn't hear what I said the way I meant it. Or perhaps she heard it differently. Perhaps she was tired that day, or worried about something else in her own life. Perhaps the words got twisted somewhere between my mouth and her ear, the way words sometimes do when they travel through the air and through a person's own fears and insecurities. But what happened next changed everything. Margaret told Robert that I had said terrible things about him. Not just that he'd been unkind. Not just that he'd said something hurtful. She told him that I didn't think he was good enough for me. That I'd said I was marrying him out of obligation, not love. That I had doubts about the whole thing. I didn't say any of those things. I never would have said those things. But Robert believed her. And somehow, in the way these stories travel, I never found out what he believed until much later, after the damage was already done. The weeks before my wedding became cold. Robert was distant. He was polite, but something had shifted in him. I could feel it. And when I asked him what was wrong, he wouldn't tell me. He just said that Margaret had told him some things, and that he was trying to decide what they meant about me, about us, about whether he should go through with it. I was devastated. I went to Margaret and asked her what she had told him, and she became defensive. She said she was only trying to protect me. She said she was only telling him the truth about my doubts. And I said I never expressed doubts like that. I said she had twisted my words. I said she had betrayed me. But she wouldn't admit it. She wouldn't say she was sorry. She said I was being ungrateful, that she was only looking out for me, and that if I was going to get angry at her for trying to help, then maybe I didn't deserve her help. So I married Robert anyway. The wedding happened. It was beautiful and it was cold, and Robert was there, but not really there, not in the way a bridegroom should be. And Margaret was there too, but we barely spoke. That's when the anger started. Real anger. The kind that takes root and grows deeper every single year. For 60 years, I didn't speak to my sister. 60 years. I saw her at our mother's funeral, and we didn't speak. I heard through other people that she'd gotten sick, and I didn't visit. I learned that she'd had grandchildren, and I never met them. When mutual friends would try to bridge the gap between us, I would shut them down immediately. I would say that Margaret knew what she'd done, and that was enough. I didn't need to rehash it. I didn't need to forgive her. I just needed to be right about the fact that she had betrayed me. And being right became my whole life in some strange way. It was the story I told myself. Margaret was disloyal. Margaret was a liar. Margaret had ruined the beginning of my marriage and poisoned one of the most important days of my life. And the fact that she never admitted it, never apologized, never acknowledged what she'd done, that just confirmed everything I believed about her. Robert and I did stay married. We had children. We had a life together. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. He never told me what Margaret had said, not in those first years. And when he finally did mention it, decades later, it was almost casual. He said Margaret had seemed confused when he brought it up, that she didn't understand what he was talking about. But by then, the anger between Margaret and me was so old and so solid that it didn't matter. It was its own thing, separate from the truth. It was just the shape our relationship had taken. Margaret died in 2019. She was 97 years old. I was 99, and I was still angry at her. I didn't go to her funeral. I told myself I was too old to travel. I told myself I didn't want to see her children, who had sided with her during all those years. I told myself that going would be hypocritical, that it would be dishonest, that it would erase what she'd done. But the truth is, I just couldn't let go of the anger. It had been part of me for so long that I didn't know who I was without it. A few months after she died, one of her daughters reached out to me. Margaret's name was Susan. She asked if I would be willing to look through some of Margaret's things, because Margaret had left explicit instructions that certain items should go to me. I was suspicious at first. I thought it might be some kind of trick, some final manipulation from Margaret's side of the family. But I was also 99 years old, and I was starting to understand that time was not infinite. So I agreed to meet with Susan at Margaret's house. What I found there was a box of letters. My letters. Letters I had written to Margaret when we were young, before the betrayal. Love letters, really, though I didn't think of them that way at the time. They were just letters from sister to sister. But reading them again, after all those years, I could see how much I loved her. I could see it in every line. And there was something else in the box. A letter from Margaret, addressed to me, dated just 3 weeks before she died. It was unopened. Susan said Margaret had written it when she was in the hospital, and she'd left instructions that it should be given to me only after she was gone. I opened that letter with my hands shaking. Margaret wrote that she had carried the burden of our estrangement her entire life. She wrote that she had replayed that conversation we had before my wedding thousands of times, and she had come to understand that she had misheard me, that she had let her own insecurities turn my words into something they weren't. She wrote that she had tried to apologize multiple times, but that I had refused to see her, and eventually she had accepted that I would never forgive her. But here is what broke me. She wrote that she had forgiven herself. And she wrote that she forgave me, too, for 60 years of silence, for the pain she knew I was carrying, for the anger that I had chosen to hold on to instead of letting it go. She wrote that love is the only thing that matters, and that she was sorry she couldn't tell me that in person. I sat in my sister's house, in a room I had never seen, holding a letter that should have come to me when I still had time to do something about it, and I understood, finally, what I had done. I had spent 60 years being angry at Margaret for something that was an accident, a misunderstanding, a moment where words got twisted and neither of us knew how to untangle them. And instead of fighting to fix it, instead of demanding clarity or pushing through the awkwardness or simply showing up at her door, I had chosen to be right. I had chosen to be hurt. I had chosen to let it build into a wall so high that by the time I wanted to climb over it, there was no time left. I'm 102 now. I have lived long enough to understand that anger is a story you tell yourself, and you can keep telling it for as long as you want to. You can tell it so many times that it becomes true, or at least true enough. But it's still just a story. It's still just a version of what happened, and there might be other versions that are just as real. I wish I could tell Margaret that I understand now. I wish I could tell her that I'm sorry for the 60 years. I wish I could tell her that the anger was never really about what she did. It was about feeling hurt and not knowing how to fix it, so I fixed it by making sure it never healed. If there's anything I want you to know, if you're listening to this, and there's someone in your life you've been angry at, someone you've cut out or stayed silent with or refused to forgive, I want you to know that time is not as infinite as it feels when you're young. It runs out. It runs out faster than you can imagine. And the anger doesn't get lighter as you get older. It doesn't make you feel better. It just makes you tired. Margaret is gone, and I can't tell her any of this. But maybe I can tell you. Maybe that's the only thing I can do now. Tell you that whatever they did, whatever the misunderstanding was, it might not be what you think it is. And even if it is, the anger won't change it. Only forgiveness will, and forgiveness is something you can still do, even when the other person can't hear it. That's what I learned when I was 102 years old, 60 years too late.